in the North Atlantic, they say about every 25 years, they have an enormous storm. It's where the Gulf Stream going north and the Labrador Current coming south met way off the coast of Ireland, Ireland up there. Gulf Stream dipped and missed Ireland, but left Ireland on the side. And in that area, we encountered a hurricane. We had left Norway. We creeped along 6 days and 6 nights and did not see the bow of our ship. It was that rough. The water got rough, and the further down, we were north of where the Titanic was laying on the ground. We were north of that. And that hurricane got worse and worse. And I happened to be on watch, and this was in February. And I had a 8 o'clock to noon, which 800 to, anyway. And having to log the readings of the instruments. About 10 minutes to 12, I went out to read the instruments, and the barometric pressure, now it was rough, the water was rough, gosh, it was. Went out to read the instruments, and the barometric pressure read so low that I was not willing to record it without having someone read it with me. So I asked the officer of the deck if he'd go out and read that instrument with me. And I was correct, and I logged it. Then he says we need to notify the skipper. Now, I mean, you were riding, like that. Now, here was, I was on watch from 8 to 12, alternating, and we alternated 30 minutes because the wheel was rough. I mean, you fought it. So we alternated 30 minutes. Anyway, he said we need to notify the skipper. So I went to the skipper's apartment right after the bridge there, and there was no one there. And I thought to myself, well, I know where that booger is. He's down on the well deck pacing. And I go down way back on the aft part of the ship. There he was. And he was walking away from me when I got to where I could see him. And I took my time and followed behind him, and when he turned around, and then I made him a report to him that the barometric pressure was now reading. And I wish I remembered exactly what, but it turned out to be the second lowest in the maritime industry since they started keeping records. I met and told him what it was. He said, I'll meet you in the wheelhouse. He goes up the starboard side of the ship. I had to cross over and go up the port side of the ship, and we went into the wheelhouse facing each other. He looked at me and says, take the wheel. He says to the officer of the deck, I'll take the con. Well, that put the officer of the deck second in line in the wheelhouse. Okay, I took the wheel. It was recorded. During that time, it got rougher and rougher. My emotion won't let me get too open with it, but all hands, I don't know where they went, but it wound up there was only the skipper and myself in the wheelhouse. And the skipper, he goes over in a corner and cowers down in that corner like a dog that you had whipped. And he would say, this is it. It would go down like it was going to dip in the water again. This is it. So for over 2 hours, I was the only one in the wheelhouse, in the conning tower, that was still on my feet. And I was fighting that wheel. And if I have another minute on that, the wheel was supposed to have been shockless. It was hydraulic. If you turned it to the left, you had to turn it back. If you turned it to the right, you had to turn it back. But I tell you how shockless that wheel was. During that storm, that wheel carried me a 360 to the left and one time a 360 to the right. It carried me 3 times when that water would slap against that rudder and the back pressure, and it was that rough. But I stayed on that wheel, and that's where I got that ring. I stayed on that wheel for 4 hours and 20 minutes. The storm kind of broke, and they began to come out the woodworks, and I got relief. But it took 2 men to walk me away from that wheel. I was that near exhausted.